I'm a retired dancer and a filmmaker, and I've been involved in storytelling in one form or another for a long time. And I'm interested in movement and sound and music. I'm interested in human stories as a student of anthropology. And I find that filmmaking is really fascinating, and that it brings you stories that, and you learn things that you just would never learn any other way. And sometimes I find myself searching for stories, but in this case, this story came to me. Several years ago, I was working on some video profiles for an award ceremony, and one of the people that I met was Kathy Kobacker. And Kathy, I know some of you know her. She's been a hospice volunteer for over 30 years, and she's a passionate advocate about end-of-life care. And so she won an award, and we started talking about hospice and HIV/AIDS and personal loss. And what I didn't realize is Kathy's a little impulsive, and she said, "Hey, I've got a movie idea for you. Let's take some women, go to South Africa, and talk to the women I've met in hospice care." She had done a lot of study trips, and one place that she went and was very impressed with was the hospice care in South Africa. So I agreed that it would be great to go, and but I didn't know anything about hospice. I was willing to learn, and I knew it wasn't going to be an easy chore, but I was willing to take the risk, and Kathy was willing to take the risk, and so were the 5 women that she assembled to go on this trip. So we have a university professor, a hospice counselor, transition counselor, a hospice nurse, a nutrition expert, and at the time, Dara was a student in international aid, a doctoral student. So I gathered a small crew together, small film crew, and with these women, we went to hospice in South Africa to visit people there. And we had, because some of these women had been to sub-Saharan Africa before, I had not, they had incredible access. And so we just ended up having conversations. And for some reason, people trusted us enough to share their work, to share what they do, and allow us to have a microphone and a camera. And so here's just a little clip that comes up at the beginning of the film, which was the result of our trip. And so here's the beginning of the film, Song of the Soul. And here you go. Whoops.
Hospice to me is not a building, it's a philosophy of life. It's not prolonging life, it is also not shortening life, but it is giving the person the support and care and love until he dies.
Hospice takes into the program people who have incurable terminal conditions.
He's feeling more comfortable because yesterday he was screaming, was itching, and then doctor said you can give him some Allergex tablets for the itching, and he looks much brighter today.
We provide palliative care where now we look at the person in totality and we try to give the best quality until the person dies.
It's a halal hospice. Yeah, I'm very happy for him. Thank you very much, my friend. Okay. Yeah.
So we were able to go and meet some patients and hang out and talk to and travel with some nurses and caregivers. And as you could see, South Africa is really beautiful. And for those of you who have been to South Africa, you know it's one of the wealthiest countries on the continent. There are beautiful cities, but there's also great inequality still in South Africa. It has one of the highest unemployment or underemployment rates on the continent, and it has one of the highest HIV/AIDS rates in the world at 5.6 million people. So I had to document this trip. I had to document what I saw, and I had to find my way into this culture. And what I saw deeply resonated with me. I know what loss is. A lot of us have lost family members. I know what it is to be uprooted. In my early 20s, I had lost my parents, I had lost my grandparents, I had lost several friends, and eventually I would lose some very good friends and colleagues to a disease that would finally have the name HIV/AIDS. So this became intensely personal to me because I was reminded of the loss of my mother, holding my father's hand. I was reminded of my best friend, Michael, who was dying, who was part of the first clinical trials of HIV/AIDS medicines in this country. For a long time, those experiences shaped my world. And all of a sudden, here I was in South Africa, watching firsthand the practice of hospice care. And I was looking at it through my lens. And so what I realized is that my lens had to be a supportive role in showing people, in showing and listening to the actions, to the words, to be able to see through the lenses of the people that we were meeting. So as a filmmaker, I had to get my lens out of the way. And this next clip I want to show you is about Felicia. DeGracia is the nurse. It's a home care visit. Felicia is 9 years old, and she's lost her mother. And she and her sister are without parents.
Felicia has been my patient for over 2 years now. She was admitted at hospice for symptom control. She was very ill. We've got a pediatrician who comes out to hospice once a week to look at children. But since she's been discharged, she's never gone back. Go hospice. She loves hospice. She doesn't like the hospital, but she loves going back to be admitted at hospice.
There was this generation that was disappearing, mothers dying because of HIV/AIDS, and a lot of them. Imagine if you've got a granny who is, 76, is dependent on a government pension, which is enough for herself, but not enough for her to support other people. And then you've got this child that she's got to look after. There's homework to be done. How can the granny support this child? This child is growing. She or he needs a more vigorous support, from a mother or from a younger person. So it's all those problems, especially if you look into the future.
I love that they were playing hopscotch. So what we saw, what I saw, what we all saw, was very competent, compassionate care. And it wasn't just the health care that they were providing. Hospice in South Africa turns out to be this incredibly adaptive kind of care. So if somebody needs food, somebody figures out how to provide food parcels. If daycare is needed, somebody tries to figure out how do we put together a daycare. If there's education that needs to happen in schools, people figure out how to make that work. So this is hospice that's working in and amongst and with the community, working for the betterment of people's lives to help patients and families. And I have one last clip to show. It's a little longer. Oops. This is a daycare that is provided by, that's supported by the hospice.
started with a few, and in no time at all, we now have 100 children, and we've had to cap it at 100 because it's about as many as we can really look after. Last year, 22% of those little ones were infected by HIV/AIDS. We have taken it upon ourselves, with permission of course, to ensure that all the children go for testing, and so that we know what we're contending with. If we can show those children that there is care, that there is love, that there are people who are reaching out to them, we are not bringing up a lost generation.
I love teaching. It's my core because I love kids. Okay. They don't wear uniform on Wednesdays. It's a casual day on Wednesdays.
We have about 805 learners here registered. 250 of our learners are orphans. These learners that we have here at school, some of them they are living with their parents who are suffering from HIV and AIDS. Now, if we fail as a school to educate these learners on how best they can handle that kind of a situation, then it means we would have failed the entire community. So we are dependent heavily as this institution on the services that is rendered by a hospice, and they are doing a good job around here.
We are trying our best to make responsible citizens out of our kids. So I want to see them as succeeding in life, because I know in one of these kids you'll get maybe a president of this country.
We don't have clear messages about sex, that if you sex without a condom, you're going to die, but we don't emphasize that. As parents, there is a stage that we have to apologize, because what was given to us by our parents, we don't give it back to our own children. We don't give them the correct message that they are supposed to get. So I believe that we are unfair to our kids. Because if they lose direction, it's because we didn't show them the direction. But as parents of today, we want to be very soft to our children. But in the meantime, we're killing them. We're really killing them. We've got a lost generation today because of us as parents. Those children, they needed just for you to say, this is not correct. We can't even say that to our children. But one day, we'll apologize to them. And it will be too late by that time, because they will be dead.
Even if we care for one extra person, that person has a better quality of life.
I'm very proud to be a care worker, even though there are things that I cannot do.
I wanted to help because I know what those people are going through.
When you go into some neighborhoods and you see how people have opened their homes and their lives and their hearts, that's what we can show the world, that it's about connecting with human beings.
We want the world out there to know that we're putting all we can into this venture to really get our community to a point of comfort where people can be helped and make the best of everything.
So people are working very, very hard in South Africa, and they just do it every single day, quietly, working really hard, taking care of people in their communities. And what all of this has taught me and reminded me is that we really are one world, and that there are people who are finding creative solutions to problems that we really need to be paying attention to, and that our teachers can really be anywhere. To me, this documentary is a bit like a stone skipping across the surface of a very complex issue. And they are moments and bits of time, of stories of hospice in South Africa. One last story I have to tell you is when I had a near-finished cut of this film, the South African Consul General came from Chicago to see a clip of the movie. And she came up to me and she gave me her friendship pin, which is the American flag and the South African flag. And she said, "Ubuntu, do you know what Ubuntu means?" And I said, "No, I don't." And she said, "Your movie shows Ubuntu. It means humanity to others. It means you are not a person without other people." It's a philosophy that Nelson Mandela and others talk about, and it means I am what I am because of who we all are. So, and with that, I want to say thank you to everybody who made this piece possible, and thank you all for listening.